Okay, well, welcome everybody.
Okay,
Sorry about.
well,
you can hear me twice.
welcome everybody.
Sorry about. You can hear me. Should not be the case. There you go. Now you can't. We fixed it. Sorry, I was trying to set everything up. It is the mystery round tonight, but I have missed the exciting mystery portion, I suppose, because we are in Canada. The wheel has been spun. And it's Canada for tonight. Round 6 of Tier 2 then. With the Canadian Grand Prix tonight. Give you a little rundown of how things are looking. I should point out that sign-ups for F1 Broke Boys for the final season that will be featured on F1 24 are now closed. So no further sign-ups for this season, but there's plenty of reserve drivers and other exciting things happening around the grid. LoftyPickle is, of course, in a massive lead at the front of the championship. 126 points currently, leading the championship, LoftyPickle, and his nearest rival at the moment is Sean in the Aston Martin with 69 points. So what is that, 57 points the gap. That's over 2 race wins plus 0-point finishes for LoftyPickle. It's round 6. So that's a pretty commanding lead. But as you look down the rest of the field, we've got Sean on 69, Arbon on 66, 10 Kart in the Ferrari on 58, Batman on 49, Jeff on 43. So there's plenty of exciting things happening, but it's going to take an almighty effort, I think, from the rest of the drivers to knock LoftyPickle off his perch. Some of the cars, then, are making their way out. Let's turn some things on. Pretend I know what I'm doing a little bit. Why? I want the full track map, thank you. So who's going to be first then? It's going to be... Is it Shelby? It looks like it's going to be Shelby who will be first to set a lap here today around the track at Canada. Right, fixing things. Okay. Feels like we're good to go. What's the track called at Canada? Gilles Villeneuve? Gilles Villeneuve circuit? Maybe. Always dangerous. That final corner always feels like you're going to invalidate. And did Shelby invalidate there? Something went very red on the minimap. And if that is the case, then this first lap won't even count. But we'll follow Shelby around in the V-Carb. Car that I race in, actually, down in Tier 5. So hopefully Shelby's not invalidated and can throw in an incredibly fast lap here. Looking pretty overcast so far in Canada. Also looking dry, but looking like it might not stay like that for the entirety of tonight's session. Around the hairpin then, and then on to the super long straight that leads you in to that final very fast chicane. Happy commentary days, Zentar. Good to see you. Good to have you with us. How fast is this looking, and can he keep it between the white lines? Oh my goodness. Drama. Drama on the first lap of qualifying. Shelby in the V-Carb is out. The wall, is that the Wall of Champions? That is the Wall of Champions, isn't it? It has just claimed another victim here at Canada incredible. As Perez puts in the fastest lap, and indeed the only legitimate lap of the session so far. This is, I'm not sure what that was from DJ, but it wasn't anything like a proper lap. 109.5 then for Verk. Slots them neatly a second ahead of Perez and into top spot. Wow, though. Shelby just gave it too much into the final chicane. Slammed the V-carb into the wall, but the session goes on. The staff around the Canadian circuit clearly getting that race car off the track quickly. We don't have to... Look at that. No red flags. Okay, that might well be an invalidation there, DJ. But at least you didn't break the car. Fair enough. All right, let's try and focus on some people who might be about to actually put a lap time in. It looks like Bruce Wayne here in the Williams, never been seen in the same room as Batman previously, or indeed ever in the future. Looking to throw a lap time in. 109.5 is currently the pole, and this lap is not going to be good enough to beat that, but it is good enough to put Bruce onto P3 with a 110.0. Very fast laps here around Canada. It doesn't take long at all to get around this circuit. 10 kart is, oh my goodness, what is that? 1.5 hundredths away from Baja in the Kick Sauber. 10 kart slotting into P2 on the grid for now. As I say, very grey skies here in Canada tonight. Very grey skies, which might mean that you need to get good laps in quick during this qualifying session. But I'm not sure. I haven't been keeping track of the rain myself. Lap times are coming in now then, but nobody able to knock Baja off the perch yet. 109.563. And no point riding on board with the championship leader because that does not look like a fast lap. Red Bull, though, is probably on a little bit of a flyer here. We'll be approaching possibly a little bit of traffic if Pickle's taking it really easy up in front. There was a lap. Who was that? Was it Razor with a 110.1? Sean then. Oh! The Wall of Champions almost claims another. Sean does eventually bring the Aston Martin over the finish line, and despite slamming into the wall somehow, finds a 110.4. It's good enough to put him 7th and crucially not last. But that was a very shaky moment indeed for the Aston Martin driver. Let's get back on with Snips then. Was that not... It wasn't a fast lap. I was lying. It was just an aggressive lap, perhaps to cool the tyres. Or it could have been an invalidated lap. That I'm pretty bad at noticing that, but that might have been a real feature of what was happening. Little scrape with the wall there then for the Red Bull. We'll probably see that happening a few times during the race. Using the full width of the racetrack. Every chicane here at Canada feels absolutely rapid. They throw chicanes in, but you just take them in 4th and 5th gear and absolutely throw the car through all the curves of the racetrack. Not really sure if this is a good lap. I mean, we're still in hot lap here with Snips. Just about manages to keep the car stable, and he will put the ERS into overtake mode, cross the line, and it's a 110.2. Some pretty close lap times then. You would expect some pretty close lap times, by the way. I've just missed LoftyPickle. Putting a 109.1 and blow everybody out of the water. Way out ahead currently in this qualifying session. But yeah, close lap times, and it's a short track at Canada, so we would expect some reasonably close lap times, you would think. Arbon is not on a lap here because he is saving ERS. But if he was on an in lap, he wouldn't really need to save ERS, would he? So the feeling might be that the Mercedes All right. Never mind then. He's going to bring it into the pits. Just goes to show what I know. Agbalo Jobs, is this a fast lap? Is he going to swing it through? No, he's also just going to drive the car nicely into the pits. Okay, we might catch a lap at some point. What do you think? I think Igor has just put a lap in, a 109.5. Currently sitting P3 on the grid. Batman, though, is on for another. Currently with a 110.0, only just outside the 1.09s. Little squeeze of the overtake coming out of that chicane. He is around about 4/10 up on the lap time here, and that's a huge lockup going into the hairpin, and that's going to slow him down a lot. But he was already on a bit of a time gain, as we see green flags in front, so they were probably previously yellow for a moment. Hopefully these drivers don't get in the way of the Williams too much as he swings it round the final corner. Doesn't invalidate there, keeps the car on the track. Say the FIA, and a 109.353. It was worth sitting on board and watching Batman throw that one in. As the weather improves, excuse me, slightly, we should say, around the circuit. That puts Batman P2 on the grid. Exciting stuff. This is not a lap, so I don't really need to watch it. What about LoftyPickle's teammate, though, DJ? Currently coming up to the timing line for the end of Sector 2. We'll see if DJ is making an improvement as the track conditions improve. And he is indeed. That is half a second improvement so far. We'll ride on board with the McLaren then as he finishes this lap. 10 kart, by the way, has knocked Bruce Wayne down to P3 with a 109.281 in the time in between. DJ avoids the wall of champions, doesn't manage to pull a Shelby. By the way, LTK is out as well. We missed what happened there. But a 109.3 for DJ is good enough to get him P4. And what's that? Around about 100th and a half is the gap for Bruce Wayne in the Williams in front. Solid lap, though, from DJ in the McLaren. Oh, he has a qualifying ban. Oh, LTK has a qualifying ban. Thank you, Sapphire. That's very cool of you to say, because I would not have been paying attention to that, let me tell you. Sean there did make an improvement, I think, but the lap did not count, so I think Sean's previous lap there in the Aston Martin has been discounted, probably due to track limits. LoftyPickle, is this a lap? It looks like it might well be a lap, and you would think, as I say, with the track conditions improving and the sun peeking out of the clouds a little bit, the McLaren might be able to go even faster. We'll see how the time's looking when he approaches the timing line at the end of Sector 2. Oof! Lap cancelled. Lap over. It's very easy to do that here at Canada. It's very easy to just trail a wheel outside of the white lines. You're constantly trying to push all the limits that exist. Looks like Verklempt might be on a lap here, though. Not a huge improvement, but it is around about half a tenth so far. Still got some ERS remaining for this long straight, but it's going to be struggling to give him all of that extra power boost now. DRS open then, and crossing the line, running very low on the ERS, excuse me. And it is not an improvement, probably just a little bit of poor battery management, I think, from the Mercedes there. And ends up around about a tenth down on his previous lap time. 4.5 minutes to go then in this qualifying session. Who's on a lap? Well, it seems like Golden Egg Fryer might be on a lap, but it's not a particularly fast one. Currently 2.5 tenths down on his fastest lap time, which is also only a 1:10.3 thus far. Both the Aston Martins are actually struggling. Surprising on Sean's behalf. Bringing it into the pits, probably. So, there you go. Yeah, surprising on Sean's behalf, considering he is P2 currently in the championship, but needs to get a fast lap in at some point. We saw him, I think, invalidate earlier, so that is probably a pretty big factor. ERS mode down to none for the Mercedes of Verklempt here. Is Verklempt going to fit another set of tyres and go again? Yes. Seems like that is the case. Igor, though, in the Ferrari, can he go faster than his teammate? Get anywhere close to LoftyPickle at the front of the grid? I think that was not an improvement so far. Perhaps, is this not a clean lap? Saved a lot of ERS for this long straight, though, leading into the final corner. So we'll see what Igor does with the Ferrari here. Manages to avoid pulling a Shelby. He'll forever be known as that. It looks faster. It's a lot faster. It's P3 for Igor. A 109.348. That is... Wow. Half a hundredth? 5,000ths of a second ahead of Bruce Wayne in the Williams. Incredibly close. But currently, we have a Ferrari on the front row and a Ferrari on the second row. If the map goes red, they have invalidated. Yeah, but do you... I appreciate that, Sapphire, and I've been trying to keep up with that. But if it goes red at a point when I'm not watching them, does it stay red? I mean, this looks pretty red. So maybe it does stay red. This is an outlap, though, for Skullkiller. Well, perhaps it's still an outlap. Not really sure what's going on there. Now, Mel, as was identified in the Tier 2 race chat over in the Discord earlier, is actually the best driver in Tier 2. Spoilers, that's because Mel invited me to the lobby. Incredibly cool. So, coming up to the timing line of Sector 2. Is it going to be fast? I mean, it's not even in ERS mode, so I don't know why you're watching, Kelston. Of course it's not going to be fast. Who's doing a lap? It does stay red? Okay, so I'll try and keep watch of that. Lots and lots of people on an outlap, so all of the timing charts could change. We have just over 1 minute to go for qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix, and there are many, many drivers out on track seeking to put a lap in. Razor might be one of the first to seek an improvement on their lap time. Currently, what was that? I mean, less than a tenth, but it was an improvement. Looks like there is a lot of traffic happening behind. If anyone makes a mistake, it might ruin quite a few people's laps back there, you would think. But we'll ride on board with the Haas as he comes down the final straight and into the final corner, ready to cross the start-finish line. Manages to keep it out of the wall, keeps the car stable. It's going to be faster by around about 3 tenths. A 109.5 is good enough to put Razor P7, but it won't be any better than that. And 10 Kart has just beaten LoftyPickle's lap time. A 108.9 from 10 Kart, the only driver to get into the 108s, and currently seeing P1 on the grid. We'll ride on board then with LoftyPickle, who spins it, bins it, and there's bits of McLaren front wing on the main straight. Drama It's been a dramatic qualifying session so far tonight. He's going to reverse it over the line. Why not? The McLaren fully ghosted, as we'll have a look and see. I mean, that was not an improvement from Baja, but I'm sure he was probably going to try and put another lap in. Huge result there for Bruce Wayne as well. Knocks LoftyPickle down to the second row of the grid with a 109.0. What can DJ do currently? Sitting in P5, there is a McLaren parked across the start-finish line. Right. Well, somebody should get the truck out and get that moving. Incredible lap though from 10 car. I'm sorry that we didn't ride on board and catch it. A 108.9 from the Ferrari puts him on pole position for the Canadian Grand Prix. Thrilling stuff. And LoftyPickle bidding it on that final lap. I wasn't riding on board long enough to see if the lap time was improving. How long's this McLaren gonna sit here, do we think? Everyone is basically finished though, so we have our order, and I probably should have read down it a little bit longer. P7 for Verklempt. Seems pretty good. Running down the grid then, we have 10 car starting in pole position with that fantastic 108.9, followed by Bruce Wayne in the Williams, joining him on the front row. Down the rest of the grid, you've got LoftyPickle P3, Igor P4, DJ P5, Baja in P6, Verklempt is P7, Eggfryer in P8, Sean in P9, Razor in the Haas, with that lap that we rode on board with, good enough to get him into the top 10 on the starting grid. Arbon just missing out in the Mercedes, starting this one from P11. What have people got to say about that? So what? Shelby's not going to be last then, right? Shelby's not going to be last because LTK has a qualifying ban, something like that. Let's see what time we're looking at. 29. Okay, we got around about 4 minutes then. Around about 4 minutes to hang around here. I'm just going to grab myself a drink. Whilst we wait for this one to start. LoftyPickle, I mean, I'm treating it like, you know, I'm treating it like it's a disappointing qualifying session for LoftyPickle. And I think he's starting P3 or P4. It's not really disappointing, is it? But compared to the lofty heights that the Pickle has set so far this season, maybe slightly disappointed to spin the McLaren, approaching the wall of champions. Right, I'll be back in 60 seconds. All right, microphone's back on. We're probably down to around about 60 seconds before we get underway with racing. We'll have another look at the grid. There is LoftyPickle sitting in P3. A couple of different strategy calls by some of the drivers. 10 Kart in P1 is going to be starting on the mediums, it looks like. LoftyPickle has now also decided to go ahead and fit the medium tyres for the start of the race. But there are a few hard runners. Way more hard runners than medium runners, to be honest. So there could be some interesting strategy calls and decisions coming into play. Yeah, we'll have a look down. Have a look down the bottom of the grid. Infinity will be starting from the back. LTK with the qualifying ban. P19 and Shelby, after throwing the V-carb into the wall of champions, will be starting P18. Snips, I have been instructed to inform you all, Season 8 Tier 1 Drivers Champion and Season 9 Tier 1 Runner-Up. Back racing tonight after a long break. So that's exciting for the Red Bull. We're very used to seeing Agbala jobs on the Tier 2 grid, but maybe slightly less used to seeing Snips. I make it 2029. So we're probably going to start racing at any moment. It's going to be a mad dive down to Turn 1. 10 Kart leading the cars out as the only driver to set a lap time quicker than 1 minute and 9 seconds in the Ferrari. Not sure if everyone's a bit too nervous to ready up or if the game just doesn't want to show me the race start. Both things are often true. Here we go. Very soon, we're going to be down to 5 red lights, and away they go. It's a pretty quick start here in Canada. 10 Kart gets away pretty well. But we see LoftyPickle has already gained ground and has overtaken Bruce Wayne going into the first corner. The McLaren now sitting in second position, and the Williams having to settle for third. All kinds of drama for Mel, it looks like, at the back. There are things happening down the field. Lots of cars side by side and lots of tense racing as we go through the first few corners of lap 1. Snips just about manages to hold position there on the inside with a V-carb of Max swinging it around the outside. Everybody, as you would expect, so far is in a bit of a train, and it seems like everybody has survived. It's not been a great start for Mel, though, in the kick Sauber, seen down the back of the field there, and with a V-carb shoving into his rear wing, actually. Shelby really intent on destroying that racing car tonight. 10 Kart still leads the field, though, as we go into lap 2, and now I'll actually get some things on screen, so let's have a look at what we're actually dealing with. Plenty of ERS used, by the way, by 10 Kart on that opening lap. Couple of gaps are starting to form here. Igor almost dropping out of DRS range of Bruce Wayne in front there, but we see a little wobble from the Williams in front, and that will allow Igor to close the gap, you would think, a little bit with some superior traction and hopefully keep this train going, at least from his perspective. And there is the first time penalty on lap 2. The first time penalty of today's session. Pretty incredible. It is Igor with a 3-second time penalty. It isn't easy, though, to keep the car between the white lines going around Canada. Whoop, controller disconnected. Don't tell me things like that. And Igor is the first one to suffer. But although it's incredibly early, that definitely will not be the final time penalty that we see today. LoftyPickle sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and I missed it. He has made a push already and is now leading the race. There you can see 10 Kart in the Ferrari behind, probably under a little bit of pressure shortly from Bruce Wayne in the Williams, as we see another time penalty, and this time it is for Snips, who I was just hyping up and talking about, so Curse the commentator comes into play. It's a 3-second time penalty for the Red Bull. A gap is forming from Max to Razor in the Haas in front. Razor will want to stay very close to Arbon in the Mercedes and try to create some distance to the VCARB behind. And we see Igor go very, very deep into the hairpin. Baja, though, has no room to get around and has to pull back a little bit, and Baja is now under threat from Golden Egg Fryer as we approach the final corner. Looks very slippery in a straight line, though. The kick Sauber doesn't look like Egg Fryer is going to have the space to make a move as we go into the final chicane. And Egg Fryer stays behind. There's another time penalty. It is for Verklempt in the Mercedes. I will have absolutely no idea come the end of this race what everybody's actual finishing positions are going to be, because it's lap 4. We already have 3 time penalties and we're going to get loads more. So later on we'll have to do this and try and do a quadratic equation to work it all out. There's another time penalty. It's Razor in the Haas. Very unfortunate after, I think, a pretty decent qualifying session. Now is staring down a 3-second time penalty. We'll keep it on tyres for now, because some of these strategy calls when people come in for their first pit stops are going to be pretty interesting, I would think. 35 laps is a lot of laps around the Canadian circuit, but they're not very long laps. They seem to fly by. As we ride on board with Golden Egg Fryer, who is within a second of Baja in the Kick Sauber up in front. LoftyPickle still leads the race, but 10 Car, there you see it, is incredibly close behind currently in the Ferrari. LoftyPickle unable to pull away in the McLaren so far. There's another time penalty. It goes to Snips. There's another time penalty, and it goes to DJ in the McLaren. DJ, by the way, has had a pretty rotten start. Is currently in P13. Something gone very wrong there for the other McLaren driver. Very unfortunate indeed. Perez, by the way, has totally dropped off the rest of the field. So I think we missed it, but there must have been some pretty big chaos happening for Perez. But we'll be hoping, whilst everybody maybe sits in a train and fights each other, they might be able to make up some ground with the clean air in front. I'm going to ride on board with Shelby for just a moment, who did manage to destroy the VCARB on their first lap in qualifying, but at the moment looks pretty close to Mel in the Sauber in front. Mel, of course, will think they have the tyre advantage as well on those medium tyres, and Shelby looks to send it down the inside of the hairpin, and a little bit of wheel banging, not much room to get both the cars around. Kick Sauber is forced very, very inside, really. For that left, it's not really a turn, is it? But I'm sure that somebody in the FIA will call it a turn. But Shelby gets the move done, and the VCARB moves up into P17, and he's now staring down the back of Agbala Jobs in the Red Bull, and probably will be looking to make that move stick as well a little bit later. Cluster of 3 cars here, from DJ to Max to Skullkiller. In fact, 4 to LTK as well. So there could be some interesting battles happening here. Skullkiller in front. We just saw an invalidation. Well, not invalidation, excuse me, but a track limits happen, and Skullkiller now has a 3-second time penalty. You can see it down the field. We already have, what's that? 7 drivers out of the 20 already have a 3-second time penalty, and it's lap 6. It is and a big spin! A big spin! Ignore everything that I was saying. LTK just loses the traction coming out of the past chicane. Drops all the way down to P19, but thankfully does manage to just about keep the Alpine out of the wall, and his race can continue. But that's going to be pretty devastating there for LTK. Slapped with a qualifying ban. Made up some good ground in the first few laps, and now is sitting down in P19. Plenty more time penalties coming in. There's now less drivers without a time penalty than with a time penalty. Such is the nature of Canada, and maybe also a little bit the nature of the mystery round. This racetrack was not chosen until minutes before tonight's qualifying session. So many of the drivers, in fact all of the drivers, will not have had a chance to practice specifically the track that was going to show up, and maybe slightly less familiar, running a little bit more on instinct than rehearsed poise for tonight's race, as we watch Verklempt close the gap a little bit on the Aston Martin going into the long straight. Sean is losing the cars in front a little bit and does pull out to the side as Verklempt opens up the DRS and flies past the Aston Martin in the Mercedes. Absolutely no problem. We'll look to hunt down the cars in front and keep the DRS open. 10 Kart has made a push for the lead of the Grand Prix and has overtaken LoftyPickle. No time penalties for first, second and third currently. 10 Kart, Pickle and Batman all managing to keep their racing cars between the white lines in the first, 7 laps that we have done so far. We're currently about halfway through lap 8. There it is! Another time penalty for Shelby and another time penalty for Agbalajobs, and I think we're now we're now looking at 6-second time penalties. In fact, there is one for Verklempt, there's one for Snips, there's one for Shelby, there's one for Agbalajobs. Time penalties will definitely be a factor in the finishing positions of this race, as we see LoftyPickle go very close to the Ferrari in the hairpin. 10 Kart will not really have any defense to put up here. He is in hot lap, but elects not to press the overtake button. Does at least make Pickle work for the overtake slightly, and Pickle almost pulling a Pickle. A very slippery McLaren coming out of the final corner, but just about manages to keep the car on the racetrack as we see him lock. I think that was one of the front tyres, front right tyre also going into turn 1. How long will these medium tyres last? I mean, you would think, based on the laps, that it might be, round about 13? Something like that? I don't know. I'm not very good at that stuff. And these guys are all a lot quicker than me, so they'll probably have a much better idea. We'll stick with Bruce Wayne for a moment. Still got Igor close behind him, but Igor now with that time penalty, although you can't discount the fact that the drivers in front may well end up with time penalties by the end as well. If Bruce Wayne gets super close to 10 Kart and starts a little battle for P2, that's really going to give LoftyPickle the advantage in terms of being able to pull away and take a very commanding lead of the Grand Prix. But so far, from Pickle down to Igor, everything is very close. There was some chaos happening. There's a lot of cars incredibly close together. There's another 3-second time penalty for Snips as we watch Razor go for a move around the outside of the Aston Martin into turn 1, but very late on the brakes. Golden Egg Fryer and holds position. No room for Razor to get that Haas anywhere on the racetrack, and has to settle for staying back and staying in P9. But it was audacious and it was exciting to see. Shelby with another time penalty. Let's just have a quick penalty update. There you go. We've got some 9 seconds happening. Crucially, though, Pickle, 10 Kart, Bruce Wayne, Baja, Golden Egg Fryer, Arbon, Mel, Infinity, and Perez. No time penalty for all the drivers listed. So should be making up ground, those drivers listed, come the end of the Grand Prix. But we'll see how that one goes. Arbon is getting pretty close to this little cluster of cars here from P7 down to P10. Verklempt is really not involved in this race too much, and just focusing on Baja in front. And we have, I think, our first pit stop. It is Sean in the Aston Martin coming in with just, I mean, it says 9 laps, but it seems like it couldn't possibly be true, because we're on lap 11. But he does pull into the pits and fits the hard tyres. Is Sean's intention to take those hard tyres all the way to the end of the Grand Prix? That would be incredibly incredibly bold if that was the case. By the way, I have missed a time penalty. It's gone to 10K in the Ferrari in the lead of the Grand Prix. That is going to be incredibly disappointing, and LoftyPickle will now know that all he really needs to do is keep the car between the white lines, stay close enough to 10K to keep that DRS open as long as possible, and, crucially, fend off any potential attacks from Bruce Wayne behind, which won't necessarily be the easiest thing in the world to achieve. We're right on board with Snips then for a moment as we see Arbon's rear light blinking a little bit, but I assume that just means that he was saving because he's got plenty of ERS. Snips does get the move done. Look at that. I looked away for a brief moment and we see the Red Bull go flying past on the inside of the Mercedes. Snips gets himself up into P8 with the time penalty, of course, so Arbon perhaps won't mind too much about that overtake, but a clean move nonetheless from Snips. And look at that action shot. We see Verklempt get an incredible move done on Baja, sends it up the inside, maintains track position around the chicane, and going into the hairpin. Is the Kick Sauber going to have any response? It doesn't really look like it, but on the main straight now, Baja is going to be able to open that rear wing, already slamming down the overtake button. It might be a little bit too adventurous. Who's your money on, or is that a stupid question? Because there's only one answer that's safe. Who is my money on? Well, let me tell you something, Arthur. At a cool 1 to 50 odds, with all the top bookmakers, the smart money is on LoftyPickle in the McLaren, isn't it? I thought that 10K might be able to pull out a bit of a lead, and has held P1 on track pretty well for probably what feels like close to 10 laps or so now. But the 3-second time penalty for 10K really makes things difficult. Pickle probably doesn't have to take too many risks now. We already know that Pickle is incredibly fast, and will probably just be taking home the race win. But, you know, plenty of things can happen. We can have safety cars, we can have chaos, there's strategies and decisions to get right. But it's probably Pickle. Never bet against the Pickle. That's right, Zentar. Sorry, I'm having to speak to two chats at once because I believe that Twitch will not allow me to merge them. I think Twitch would get very annoyed about that. So instead, you must exist separately. There you go. That felt like a little moment from DJ. Look at all of the tire marks across the track as we get into lap 14, riding on board with DJ, and unfortunately, we see DJ land another time penalty by taking the car just slightly over the white lines there. Let's have a look at these penalties now then. I think it's a pretty good time to do that. We have 12 seconds for Shelby in the V-Carb. That is a lot. 12 seconds is a lot, isn't it? And that'll probably come into play by the end of the race. We've got some guys with 9 seconds. We have some with 6. And we do have 10K Sean Eggfryer. Sean, by the way, after reaching incredible heights so far this season, has to be disappointed to currently be sitting in P14 with a 3-second time penalty. But also Skullkiller and LTK with 3-second time penalties. Very few drivers without time penalties to their name. As we watch Shelby shoot it up the, well, I was going to say up the inside, but it's not, is it? You're on a straight. But a little bit of a drag race as we approach turn 1. Well, almost. But Shelby still has the DRS, of course, and can make that advantage count. Gets the move done, moves into P9 on track, but with a 12-second time penalty, it might not mean very much. But it means something. It means a little bit of pride. Speaking of pride, Shelby There's another Shelby impression. Slamming the car into the wall. Really fed up with the V-carb today, Shelby. Just wants to get it back in the garage, tear it apart, and start over again by the seams of things. Hopefully, though, can keep all 4 wheels attached to the race car for the next 20 laps of the Grand Prix. LoftyPickle has pitted. There you go. I'm too busy watching time penalties. I'm missing actual crucial things that are happening. LoftyPickle has pitted. Got rid of those medium tyres. And will probably seek to take these hards, you would think, the next 20 or so laps to the end of the Grand Prix. Plenty of people pitting in front as well. 10 Kart pulls into the pits. Igor continues on, but there's lots of hard runners basically now staying out in front. We have just Baha and Arbon choosing to take their mediums slightly longer as we watch Razor come out of the pits very, very close to Snips in the Red Bull in front. But slotting in just behind, also fitting those hard tyres. You won't really see anybody on the soft today, I wouldn't think. But there are a couple of different calls about when the hards and the mediums are going to fall off. Bruce Wayne, then, is currently leading the Grand Prix in P2. But Igor, excuse me, has a time penalty in front. The question is, how much time is LoftyPickle going to gain with the fresh hard tyres before Bruce Wayne decides he has to pit and then try and make an advantage count, pitting the mediums later on in the race? Doing well there, though, Bruce, to keep it between the white lines and keep the time penalties at bay. Baha still going on, and Arbon, on these medium tyres. They are now the longest running medium runners. And Chaos, what's happened? Has Shelby put it into the wall of champions again, or retired in the pit lane? Maybe it's a retire in the pit lane. I think that's more like it. Lots and lots of time penalties were happening, unfortunately, though, for Shelby today. It'd have been nice if there was an exciting crash, but I don't think that was the case. I think it was situation of giving up. Lots of little wheel banging here, though, between the Aston Martin of Sean and Agbalajobs in the Red Bull. For a moment, the Aston Martins and the Red Bull were running in sequence. They are again now. Look, Sean in P9, Agbalajobs here P10. We have Golden Egg Fryer was in P11, but gets the move done on Agbalajobs, and Snips is sitting a bit further behind there in P12. Exciting stuff happening in this little battle, though, as we see Egg Fryer get the move done on Agbalajobs and chase down his teammate in front. I was mentioning earlier on, wasn't I, about how Sean might be a little bit disappointed with how this race has gone so far. It wasn't a fantastic qualifying for the Aston Martin, and he was pretty far down the order, but pitted incredibly early. These hard tyres are, you know, relatively old compared to some of the other people who have just pulled into the pits, but you would think he still wants to take them to the end of the race. And currently there's at least what, at least 6 drivers in front of Sean who still need to come into the pit lane at some point. There's another 3-second time penalty for Golden Egg Fryer. Lots of drivers really struggling to keep the car between the white lines here in Canada tonight. But yeah, things are kind of looking up for Sean. The time penalty is, of course, relevant. It's 6 seconds already, which is a lot. But you would think he's going to gain some ground on cars in front, particularly as their tyres start to drop off. We'll actually ride on board with Baha in the kick Sauber for a moment, because this is now the 17th lap on these medium tyres. And surely Baha must be thinking about bringing this car into the pit lane at some point. Arbon behind does indeed decide that now is the time to get some fresh rubber on the wheels. But Baha, incredibly, in the kick Sauber, is now beginning lap 18 on the mediums. Will it pay off? I mean, he'll definitely lose some positions when he finally comes into the pits. But it's a bold call, and it's an exciting call so far. LoftyPickle has now overtaken Max in the V-carb. The reason that that is critical is Max is also a full pit stop behind LoftyPickle. Max still needs to bring his V-carb into the pit lane at some point during tonight's race. The McLaren has brand new, fresh, 4-lap-old hard tyres. Looking commanding, I think it's fair to say, so far, from LoftyPickle. Now, one of the things that I just want to check here is the gap to the leader. LoftyPickle currently has, what is that, a 14 2/10 gap to Bruce Wayne in the Williams, who is currently leading the race and still needs to make a pit stop. I mean, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that a pit stop at Canada is going to take slightly longer than 14 seconds. So that cushion is not looking the strongest currently for Bruce Wayne, and it looks like he is probably going to come out of the pit lane after his mandatory pit stop behind the McLaren, who is, of course, currently leading the championship. Come on, Max. We got a cheerer for Max in the chat. Good to have you with us, Jen. Rain in 10 to 15 minutes. I was not concentrating on that, and I was not aware. That does make things interesting, doesn't it? Rain in 10 to 15 minutes. It's interesting, actually. As soon as you've said that, Jens, I am now having a look at the sky, and it's turning decidedly grey, isn't it? Compared to where we were at the start of the race. So there could still be plenty of drama to come here in Canada, and we've caught one. Max, unfortunately, the fans were cheering a little bit too loud from the grandstands in the cheap seats, and Max spins the Red Bull, the V-carb, the rear tyres, spinning up a smoke screen as he drops down, unfortunately, to 12th position. Sorry about that, Jens. Sometimes it's just the way it goes. Still got the gap to the leader up because LoftyPickle is closing the gap on Bruce Wayne. It is now 13.5 seconds to the Williams in front. Crucially, though, if you're right about this rain situation, Jens, then is Batman's plan all along to take these hard tyres until the very last moment and then just fit the inters? Because you would think that Pickle might have a really... It depends on, you know, when the rain comes and how heavy it is and what kind of an impact it's going to play. You would think that Pickle might have to come back into the pits to fit the inters at some point. Don't know. Lots of exciting things could happen. But it seems like... Oh, well, there goes that theory. Bruce pulls into the pit lane. Soft tyres, maybe? Why not? Try it. No, we'll fit the mediums. So you would imagine, even though the rain might be on the way, based on that, you would imagine that it's not actually going to impact the driver's tyre choices throughout the race. Bruce is not a million miles away from LoftyPickle, but he does have a little bit of traffic in front to navigate. Well, I mean, I'm talking like 10 kart doesn't exist. 10 kart is incredibly close to LoftyPickle currently, and that's really the battle for the lead of the Grand Prix. But the problem is 10 kart currently has a time penalty. It's not inconceivable that Pickle will end up with a time penalty of his own by the end of tonight's race, though. Likely just inters all the way through. I've heard it will be light rain, then heavy rain. Ooh, okay. Okay. Well, then that could be very interesting. But I mean, so far, it seems like not too many of the drivers are really paying that much mind. Tenkart manages to skillfully avoid pulling a Shelby. And keeps the car out of the wall of champions as we go into turn one. The Ferrari pulls very close to the McLaren in front. The McLaren has Baja on 22-lap-old medium tyres in P2 to contend with. That is definitely going to be an obstacle in the road for these two guys. There's going to be exciting things happening, I think, over the next couple of laps as the McLaren tries to get around Baja. Look at that. So much superior grip on that inside line with the fresher tyres. And 10K really needs to, I would think he would want to open the ERS there and get the move done on Baja. But opts to save for a moment. He's definitely going to want to fly past the Sauber on the main straight, you would think. But the Sauber is now going to be able to open the rear wing with the McLaren sitting not too far away in front. 10K opens up the ERS straight into overtake mode. The Sauber looked incredibly slippery in a straight line previously. Pit lane is not very free and available to Baja, and Baja doesn't care. He says 23 laps. Hit me again. The medium tires. Maybe it's what was that crazy? Remember that was it the Alex Albon strategy when he took some tires about 64 laps and then in a 1 lap change? Anything could be happening with Baja this race. It's crazy. It's exciting. We love to see it. 23 laps on the mediums. People haven't taken the hards. 23 laps. Insanity. But great to watch. Bruce Wayne has kept the move done on Baja, who will be struggling for all sorts of grip out there at the moment, you would think. Albon did it at Australia some years ago. Yeah, and Ocon did it at Baku. There you go. There's some nice little F1 lore for you. Baja channeling, I should say, his inner... how do we put those two names together? Esteban Albon, Alexander Ocon. They both sound fine, don't they? If Esteban Albon was lining up on the grid, I don't think anybody would bat much of an eyelid at that. To be honest, sounds like a race driver to me. Bruce Wayne swings the car neatly around the final chicane, avoids the wall of Shelby, and crucially is approaching, look at this, 10K and LoftyPickle, who are battling away in front of him. Now, as I mentioned, 10K has, is it a 3-second time penalty, or is it, yeah, it's a 3-second time penalty currently for 10K. So Bruce could still end up with a bit of a penalty. LoftyPickle could still stray the car outside the white lines. But at the moment, Bruce Wayne is probably the best placed car to be challenging Pickle for the race win. So he'll be seriously hoping that 10K can increase the pressure on the McLaren, try and force a little bit of a mistake, or even if not force a mistake, just force the McLaren to slow down as they battle, and that will bring Bruce nicely into this battle. He has tyre advantage here, just 3 laps on his medium tyres compared to 10 laps for Pickle on the hards. Sky is very grey now. There is not much sunlight left. You would think that the first specks of rain will be due to fall any moment. But things are exciting at the front of the Grand Prix. Bruce Wayne is now very much in contention for a race win. So we'll try and keep half an eye on that one as we have a look down the rest of the field and see what's going on. Baja, everybody. All right, if Baja does another lap, everyone has to down a shot, okay? It's currently 25 laps, if you're old enough, by the way. 25 laps on the medium tyres for the Kick Sauber. It is incredible. He must be going on to the softs at some point. He must just fancy the softs later. Oh my goodness. Baja, if you can hear me. Baja, if you're listening. Get that car into the pits immediately. There's barely, I mean, there's no tread. There's absolutely no tread left on these tyres. I was about to say barely any tread. What absolute load of nonsense that is. There is no tread left on these medium tyres for the Kick Sauber. Surely this is the lap. Is this the... It's not the lap. Baja is going to slide it around the final chicane, avoid the wall of champions, and onwards to lap... What is this? 27, 26 on his medium tyres. Rain at any moment now. So that is really the strategy from Baja, isn't it? It's take the mediums. Oh my goodness, we have a safety car. I'm missing things. Albon's out. Albon is out. How is Albon out? And what happened? Can we see anything on the racetrack? Too busy watching Baja take his take his medium tyres 30 laps. People are fitting the inters. There is a safety car. The field will slow down. The field will bunch together. And intermediate tyres are going to be the order of the day. Crucially, that safety car, it did come for, you know, at a good time for some of these sort of lower down medium runners. Let's say we got a problem here. We have some problems happening. 10 car has a drive-through penalty. Skull Killer has a drive-through penalty. What on earth has happened? We might see some of these, well, we might see some of these get challenged. I'm not sure if Skull Killer's being told by the FIA to give some places back or something, but look at that. We have a drive-through penalty for Skull Killer in the Alpine. Oh no, what has happened? A drive-through penalty for 10 car in the Ferrari. A drive-through penalty for LoftyPickle in the McLaren. A drive-through penalty for Bruce Wayne in the Williams. A drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car for Snips. The FIA has gone mad. Snips has DNF'd. Forget about it. It's authoritarian rule. The Gilles Villeneuve circuit. What? How do you commentate on this, man? What are you supposed to say about this? Okay. Well, we'll have a look at the tyres. Pickles put the hards on. Doesn't believe in the inters. Has a drive-through. Snips put the softs on before he before he DNF'd. It must have been. Is that retiring the pit lane? I'm not sure exactly what's happened. I mean, we can see the safety car out on track, but it doesn't seem like everything's been kept safe at all. All kinds of things are happening. Baja new tyres, that's right. Kick Sauber. In many ways, the people's champion. Finally has the intermediate tyres on for the final. I mean, how many laps of racing are we realistically going to have? 5? It's going to be an exciting finish to the Canadian Grand Prix for round 6 of Tier 2, the mystery round, bringing drama and chaos in its wake. Now, is Pickle going to take the drive-through here? He is. Wow. I mean, that must indicate that... Can you decide not to do a drive-through and have it cancelled? That must mean that Pickle might... Oh, no, Pickle needs to... I see. Pickle needs to swap tyres. So Pickle did not do the tyre swap, then, on his initial pit stop. I thought that Pickle had a bit of a master plan going. By the way, look at the tyres across the grid. I thought that Pickle had a bit of a master plan going, but no. Maybe in just the chaos of the drive-through and everything else, still had the hard tyres fitted, and is now down in P9 with brand new intermediates. But goodness me, Bruce Wayne still has the mediums. We still have drive-through penalties all around. The rain is now appearing on screen. What is going to happen in the final few laps of this race? What is going to happen in the stewards' room after this race? Currently, P1 on track is Verklempt in the Mercedes. Who would have seen it coming? Probably not Verklempt with a 12-second time penalty. By the way, 15 seconds for Igor, 15 seconds for DJ. I mean, carnage. Carnage has taken over the Grand Prix. Wonder if they're saying anything just while the safety car's happening. Is anybody saying anything in the race chat? Oh, it seems like people are maybe trying to serve their drive-through penalty under the safety car, and you can't. So people have drive-through penalties and are not able to serve them whilst the safety car is ongoing. So I think if they finish the race and don't drive through the pit lane, I think, don't they get disqualified? Honestly, anyone can win the race. Baja might win the race. In fact, looking at the time penalties, Baja has every opportunity to win the race. If you can believe it. Oh, drive-thrus count as 20-second penalties? Well, currently then, Baja in the kick Sauber leads the Grand Prix, according to my timing sheet. So I think I might win. You could. You might, Zentar. I'll tell you one thing, the safety car's got a chance of winning this one. We see Golden Egg Fryer in front, weaving around, getting some heat into those intermediate tyres. Wow. What drama. The field very bunched together then. We'll go all the way down to P16. Currently, the last driver on track is Perez. Safety car in this lap. So, what should we do? Should we ride on board with 10 kart as we watch the Verklempt? Maybe we'll just watch it like this. As we watch the Verklempt get ready to get the field racing again. If he goes too early, of course, he'll get limited on the throttle. So, you've got to time this just right. Maybe try and catch your opponents out. We see the Mercedes of the Verklempt and 10 kart in the Ferrari weaving almost in tandem. Coming down the straight through the final chicane. We see 10 kart and Bruce Wayne pulling into the pits to serve their drive-through penalties as the Verklempt gets us racing again. The Mercedes leads the cars out for lap 31 of the Canadian Grand Prix. LoftyPickle opts not to serve the drive-through penalty and is currently in P7. Important to note. Looks like Verklempt has played this one correctly. Now has a 2.5 lead on Sean in the Aston Martin behind. That is a pretty significant advantage. Baja, though, still basically, because of all the time penalties, I'm pretty sure Baja is in the lead of the Grand Prix. I'm pretty sure Baja is winning the race. We'll ride on board with the kick Sauber for a moment with these fresh intermediate tyres fitted. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you know, as the commentator, I have to pick driver of the day. Now, there's 4 laps to go at the end. And if there's one thing Canada's proved to us so far, it's that, you know, don't bother counting any chickens. But surely, if Baja pulls out a masterclass of a win here, taking... Oh, no. It's important. The curse, the commentator. Oh, my goodness. 6-second time penalty now then for Baja. But with incredible strategy, taking his medium laps. I think it was about 50... medium tyres. About 54 laps in the end, something like that. Around the Gilles Villeneuve circuit. Baja in a reasonable position, but unfortunately now, Golden Egg Fryer is just about leading the Grand Prix, although incredibly, a driver that we were also saying was having a bit of a poor time, Sean, is in a pretty good position to win too. Verklempt is pulling away in front, and that will frustrate Sean. He's sitting here with less than 30% on the ERS. Slightly more than that for the Mercedes, but there you go. It doesn't really last very long around Canada. 3 laps of racing to go. Once Verklempt crosses the start-finish line on lap 32 here. Pickle has now served the drive-through and is currently down in P12. I mean, those drive-through penalties must have just been legitimate, but I just did not see what was happening. It'll be points for Pickle, but it won't be good points, as Infinity gets another 3-second time penalty. Riding on board with Egg Fryer then, who is currently pretty well poised to finish well, but I think now, if we look at the gap to the leader... Igor goes off-roading in the Ferrari. Why not? 15-second time penalty, you might as well. Throws the car over the grass. Yeah, looking at the gap to the leader, there is now a 4.5 second gap between Sean and Egg Fryer. So even with the additional 3-second time penalty that Sean has, Sean is currently leading the race. Or, well, not leading the race, I should say, but will finish as race winner if things stay as they are. But all kinds of things can happen. Yeah, as we watch Golden Eggfryer and DJ go side by side through the hairpin. Very squirrely from the McLaren as there's a little bit of wheel bumping, and Baha looks to pounce. This is going to get intense as they approach the final chicane. Lap 33 of the race. Aston Martin and the McLaren side by side, and Eggfryer has to yield as DJ shoots up the inside. Does get an additional time penalty there, unfortunately, as well, Eggfryer. Baha just about manages to keep it clean, but the Kick-Sauber losing some ground there to the cars in front. Plenty of cars close behind them as well. Mel and Agbala jobs are not far away at all. I'm pretty sure, I haven't been keeping an eye on it, but I'm pretty sure DRS is disabled at this point, but there's nothing that the FIA can do about disabling slipstreams. You see that McLaren in front of DJ just sliding all over the place. But huge time penalties for these guys in front. 15 seconds for Verklempt, 15 seconds for Igor, 15 seconds for DJ. It really is Sean's race to lose currently. I mean, Eggfryer is like, what, 6 seconds down on Sean now? I don't really see that any ground is going to be gained there. But ground will be gained by Baha come the end of the race, as long as he can keep it between the white lines. By the way, let's have a moment to appreciate our penalty-less drivers. Perez in the Haas, currently sitting a comfortable P10. It's not worth it, is it? It's not worth getting involved. Anyway, well done, Perez, for taking it 34 laps without getting a time penalty. Unfortunately, that is 3 seconds for the Haas. Anyway, LoftyPickle and Bruce Wayne have managed to keep it clean, but did end up, of course, with their drive-through penalties, which is why they are so far down the grid. Final lap of the race, then. It looks like Sean is going to bring home the win, at least on track, but the steward's room is going to be busy tonight and tomorrow, and things could certainly change. But for the moment, Sean will be standing on top of the podium, and will have the opportunity to spray the champagne, at least. And then I think it's gotta be Baha after that. Let's ride on board with Baha here, as DJ and Eggfryer are pretty close in front. Baha doesn't really need to go for any overtakes, but Mel hits the back of his teammate going into the hairpin, and then drives through the Kick-Sauber while it's ghosted to move himself up into P6. Not the most legitimate move that you have ever seen, to be honest. Treacherous conditions, but on the final lap of the race, Mel runs into the back of Baha and steals P6. Whether that stands remains to be seen. There is a 3-second time penalty for LoftyPickle at the end of the Grand Prix, and the timing chart is doing all kinds of crazy equations to work out where on earth everybody has finished. LoftyPickle, it looks like, will not be any higher than P8 following the end of the mystery round, the end of the Canadian Grand Prix today. What a crazy race. What a crazy race. We'll have to have a look where Baha finished. By the way, driver of the day is Sean, according to the game, which is probably just because of an incredible recovery drive. But for me, for the drama and the narrative of the Grand Prix, surely it has to go to Baha, doesn't it? 89 laps he did on medium tyres. That's what I'm hearing in my ears. Sean then proudly displaying, what is that, the St. Andrew's flag? As he takes his place at the top of the podium. That's a groovy trophy. An incredibly groovy trophy. An exciting race. All kinds of chaos happened. All kinds of chaos still to come, you would think, in the steward's room. But for now, Sean gets his moment in the spotlight. P1 at the end. Will it remain? To be honest, I think Sean will stay the race winner. I don't think any other craziness happened there, but it just depends what's going to happen with those time penalties. We saw a very late safety car. We saw the field bunched up together, and we saw a million time penalties down the field. That's the nature of the mystery round. That is the nature of the Gilles Villeneuve circuit for the Canadian Grand Prix. Thanks, everybody, very much for watching. I'll be back next week, same time, Wednesday evening, for round 7 of Tier 2 in F1 Broke Boys. And just before I go, why don't I enlighten you and excite you by telling you exactly where that is going to be as soon as I find it. We're in Austin. Oh, maybe my favorite track on the calendar. Well, Spa and Silverstone have got something to say about that. But we are in Austin at the Circuit of the Americas, I think it's called, for round 7 on the 4th of April. Not the 4th of April. Whenever the Wednesday is next week. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you then.